All right. Once again, this is Hunter and Rect America Badass Talks, and I'm delighted this morning. I have Mr. Mark in the room with us, and so, Mr. Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Mr. Hunter. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. Thank you for asking. Well, look, we just like to get things started by talking about uh, our journey, our struggle. So, what? Tell me, what behaviors, what kind of acting out, whatever you call it, what brought you into the rooms of recovery? How'd you land in recovery? Rooms of recovery.
That Hunter is that's honest with you, sir. That's I could not tell you. What I could say is this: is that what I had been doing for as long
Okay.
as I had been doing it for, eventually stopped working, which obviously led me to jail, institutions, or death. We're all very familiar with those three things. And at some point in my life, at some point, things had come crushing down, so painful. Unbeknownst is a good word to use. Unbeknownst to myself, other things had to kind of intervene in my life. Other forces at work,
Mhm.
as far as people, we know the system, courts, law enforcement, family members, all of them played a part at some point because what had taken place was all the talks these people had had with me at some point as I'm walking out the door, as I'm getting into the car, or as I'm leaving a business, as I'm going somewhere. Somebody at some point, Mr. Mark, I think it'd be a wise idea if you would slow down a little bit. Slow down a little bit and just kind of take a few breaths of fresh air and just kind of look around what's happening and assess the situation. And at some point, Hunter, these things, all of these talks, all of these moments that people around me were saying, hey, chill for a minute. Eventually, they all kind of came face to face and head to head at one point. There was an evening in per se that my night all kind of came to its end. And all of these talks, all these discussions, all of these previous encounters that I had with other people seemed to all just hit at one time when I had that what we refer to as an epiphany. And there was a lot of I had to go through a lot, Hunter. I really, really personally, there was a lot of research I needed to do. I had to do. There was a lot of pain, obviously, of going through. I went through to finally come to a place to where I said, we've all heard the term, being sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mhm.
If you want me to go into detail, I
Hey,
can go into detail.
hey, if you feel like it, do you feel like going into more detail?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with you, Hunter.
Yeah, yeah. Should play by all means. Go into some more detail. Give
Okay.
us some more detail.
So in so when I'll kind of start back from the beginning. I was born in Guadalajara, California, Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. I don't know,
Mm, mm,
Guadalajara, Mexico. I came to the United States when I was probably 10 months old. So I have no memory whatsoever of Mexico or Guadalajara at all. I came here, we located to California, we located to San Diego, in which I lived there till about the age of 10. And from San Diego, we ended up moving to a whole different location in which I still reside today here in the United States. So now everything from childhood had been what I thought, Hunter, what I thought was normal.
mm,
The normal household in which it appeared normal to me was the father going to work, the mother kind of taking care of the homestead, going to school, coming home, meals were prepared, homework was done, and it was, kind of shut eye until the next morning and repeat the same thing, day after day. That's what I, that time, thought the normal life appeared to be. So my biological father passed away. My mom and my family relocated back here to the States. He passed away when I was 10 months old. He passed
mm,
away of an overdose at
mm.
the age of 27.
Wow.
So here my mom comes back and she remarries We're residing in California, and then we relocated to a whole different location in the United States. Now, when this takes place, like I said, once again, this is what I thought was the norm. My stepfather, who I thought was my actual father, was a good man. Was a good man. Did the best he could with the tools he had them. I don't think when I really think about a Hunter, actually, when I really get into it, I don't think he was happy. I think when he relocated to where my mom was from, the United States, I don't think. I really don't. I don't really think he ever took. I remember going for long rides in his vehicle. He had a convertible little Bug, cool little car, cool little car. I remember going for rides in this, taking me to this big, huge river, which we all refer to as the Rio Grande, to go fishing. And I remember those moments were very, very, very cool because that was kind of just me and him just kind of getting away, doing our thing together. But when I really think about it, I don't believe he was ever really comfortable. I think he left his family. He had a lot of family back in California, and he left his family. So I believe alcohol at that time looked like a good idea to this gentleman. It looked like a really good idea. So he began to drink, and I could tell the difference. I remember when he would come home, when he'd walk into the house, the different attitude that he would have on each day. The attitude was like we all know, up and down, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. At the time, I didn't know what this was. So I recall him coming home on occasions and me going and hiding in the closet, just kind of being afraid of what I wasn't sure which person to expect. Because there, later on, as time went by, obviously the alcohol began to become more prevalent in his life. So the mood swings a little bit more often, and then became a little bit more, common. I recall him at several occasions putting his hands on my mother, which that time I was probably 8, 9 years old. I recall myself running up to him, trying to stop, and not being successful. Once again, I fast forward past that, and a Halloween night in 1982, he passed away of a car accident. He passed away of a DWI. I ended up hitting a tree that night, pretty much towing the car and killing himself. The wild thing about that, everything about that encounter, is very, very fresh in my mind. When I look back to that night in per se that took place, that next morning, which would have been the day after Halloween, which is September 1st, I remember going for a walk outside of my house. I remember a lot of people showing up to my home, just a lot of family members that I hadn't seen in a long time, showing up to my home and kind of just meeting with my mom in the living room. So I remember myself actually going for a walk outside of my house. When I went for a walk, it's really mind-blowing when you really think about this. When I actually really discuss this part, this is absolutely, you couldn't make this up. I remember leaving my home, walking down the road. We lived in a very desolate road, just a few houses that lived out there. And walking down this road by which, for whatever eternal moral compass that I believe most of us have, that kind of just leads us in certain places. And at this time, I remember just me being led, just walk down the road, looking for my dad. I remember just people showing up, not seeing him, asking for him, but nobody really giving me the scoop. So as I walked down this road, I walked for quite a while. Keep in mind, I'm 8, 9 years old at the most. Walking down this road when I left, and I see this. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but now I see it. It was a tow yard, vehicles inside of it. And for whatever reason, I was drawn to this actual tow yard. So here I began to walk towards it, probably a few miles from my home. I walked towards this tow yard when I noticed, which once again, you couldn't make this up. There's a lot with several cars in it. And the one car that my father had at that time, like I said, I remember going for rides in this car, was a yellow convertible Volkswagen Bug. I seen it there in this tow lot, and it was very, very scrunched up. It looked like a can, like literally someone got a aluminum can and squashed it up. And I looked at it and I said, And I watched closer to it. And as I watched closer to it, I noticed at some point, obviously, when my father got into this accident, he didn't die immediately. He must have gotten out of the car or attempted to get out of the car and died somewhere in the process. I don't know all the, but what this car had on it. First of all, this car was a yellow Volkswagen Bug convertible, which was completely compact. Like I said, it looked like a car can. And there was bloody handprints all along the side of the doors.
Mm.
And I noticed that. I looked at it, and I remember thinking, I've been in this car. I know this car, but a bloody handprint doesn't look like a good thing. And there was 2 of them on the passenger side door, and they were very, very easy to. At that moment, because that always stands out. There's certain things I believe in each of our lives that kind of stand out more than the others. That'll always stand out to me. When I look back on my experiences, that's always kind of going to be one of the easier ones to just kind of pop into the head. So I ran back to the home. As I ran back, my uncle heard, and we went for a walk, and he had that talk with me. Once again, the chances of that taking, I don't know how that happens, that a child leaves their home looking for the parent and they come across this basically crime scene, which was mind-blowing. So at that point, we relocated again. My mother remarried another gentleman.
Can I stop you for 1 minute?
Absolutely.
You mentioned about having a talk. I want to be clear about what talk was this that you had in that the moment
as I walked back to my home, and a lot of family members are there, which I know now. Obviously, they came to as I was running back to my home, just kind of hysterical. I remember being in a very hysterical state, just kind of screaming like in my head, thinking I didn't just see that. Like I didn't know what I was seeing. I just knew that it wasn't a good sign. So as I'm running back to my home, which is probably a mile and a half away, maybe even further, it was a good ways from our actual home. And as I'm running back up to it, I'm approaching our house, my uncle comes outside. And I don't know if he seen me or he just happened to come outside that time and take a cigarette break or what had you. But he came down and he confronted me in the front yard, and he's kind of that rolled like rancher sort of, kind of voice, and he calls me by a certain name and he said, "I have to talk with you." So I said, "Sure." So, and kind of at that time, he was kind of like the pinnacle. Like he was just kind of like,
sure.
a person that kind of was always very serious, but people listened to him. Very, very respected man.
Sure.
As I walked outside, he says, "Let's go for a walk." He shares with me the news that my stepfather, who once again I thought had an accident and wasn't coming home. And he was very, considering when I look back on it right now, Hunter, considering just his whole persona, that kind of country rancher attitude, that very, tough. When I look back on it, he was actually very gentle for who he was.
Right.
He shared with me the news about my father. And he, at no point in time was he like, "Dude, get the hell over it," or screw. He was actually, now that I think about it, I never really thought about it. He was actually he was actually very considerate to what was happening. Some of the news my father wasn't coming home, which I still really wasn't able to totally process. And he had no idea that I had just returned from seeing this. I used to drive with my father that was totaled, that was obviously, his coffin. So fast forward a few years, my mother remarries another gentleman. So now at that time, I recall alcohol being a situation. My previous father having something to do. I just remember the smell in his breath. I remember it had a different smell, and that smell in his breath would determine his personality. Fast forward, my mother gets remarried. Now, I also have a younger brother and younger sister at that time as well, from stepfather who got into the accident that I just spoke of. She remarries. The gentleman she remarries, good man. He was in the Air Force. He was doing, I believe he was on leave for whatever reason. Him and my mom met, got together, got married. There were some struggles. I remember growing up, there were some struggles. There was some difficulty. Obviously, for whatever the reasons may be, when I look back on it, and God bless my mother's heart, she passed on now, great woman. But when I look back on it now, Hunter, there was a difference as far as, so her picking my father, who eventually passed away of an overdose. Obviously, she was attracted to this guy for whatever reason.
Mm.
Picks this other gentleman, dies of a DWI car accident on Halloween night. Picks
Mm.
another gentleman who kind of same thing, different
Mm.
face, but same story.
Mm.
How to become? I began to see a little more sense, a little bit more. Now, this guy's a good man. I don't want to take anything away from this person. He provided. He put a roof over our head. He went to work every day. He did was in his best. He felt he did a good job. I also believe that he probably met my mom at a young age, 26, 27. I don't know how young
Mhm.
some people consider it is, but I think there was still probably some living he wanted to do. Plus, he had 2 children from a previous marriage, so I
Mhm.
don't know kind of how that. I just don't know if he was there. Man. So here he is doing what he does, helping my mom. We're kind of growing below income, bouncing off house to house. It's stable. Then mom and my father actually buy a really nice chunk of property on there, many. And I fast forward to junior high, high school. Here I am, high school. When I look back days, my junior high days, I really had everything that a young person could ask for. I was in sports, had all my tennis shoes, my equipment. They were there as much as they could be for my events. I mean, they were good people. When I look back on my stepfather and my mother, they did really the best they could. They really did the best they could. So here we go. I graduate high school once again.
Question.
Yes.
Were you drinking at this age yet?
No.
Okay.
I had not, Hunter. I had not picked up a drink or a drug at any point throughout all of my school years. I had not,
Wow.
which is wild. So
Okay. All
here I
right.
go. Here I am at the age of
Mhm.
19. I
Mhm.
got a scholarship to UNM athletics. Here I am at UNM for 1 year, maintaining, socializing, anything. But I mean, it's still going very well. There's really still now. I had seen alcohol before. I had seen cocaine before. It just didn't appear to something that really. It just didn't appeal to me. Like
Mhm.
I remember many times in high school, attending high school, and walking around with a hot beer man just so people stop offering me alcohol because I was kind of getting tired of it. Hey, Mark, here's a beer. Here's a beer. And we're saying, no, I'm okay. So I got to the point finally where I just figured if beer that people would not offer me that to kind of, I was able to just kind of bypass that. So alcohol or any other substances had not been an issue in my life up until that point. So fast forward, the age of 21, a friend of mine, has an opening in the state. This gentleman works for the state. Asked me if I'm interested in a position in the state. I say sure. I started as a temp job. Before you know it, I actually governor where I'm located. The governor liking to me actually hires me personally on to work for part of his cabinet. So
Mm.
here I am at the age of
Wow.
22, working for the governor. What part of his cabinet would see him on a regular basis, doing my thing. Things in life are pretty things are pretty kosher. Things when I really look back on it, I really could not ask for more at that point in time. There was some difficulty, a young childhood, and then there was a smooth patch, and now fast forward to 23, 24, and things are going pretty good, going very well, actually, to be honest with you. So time I've been with for many years, we're living stable, good woman. Things seem to kind of be that, that they fit that criteria of just a good, what a good home should kind of start off and look like. So on the date of June the 13th, 19, which is Saturday, at 11:30 p.m. that night, my life would change forever. It would literally, Hunter, that night I can actually dissect it to a point. At 11:30 precise, on June the 13th of 1998, life as I knew it up until that point would never be the same. I got a call that night from my sister's boyfriend. I can remember like it was yesterday, calling me hysterically 11, probably by 11:15, saying to me, "You need Mark, you need to get over here. Been in a bad accident." Key word with that whole phrase was he said, "Bad accident." Now my youngest brother at this time is 17. He's 17, he's still going to high school. He's working part time at a pizza place in town, and he's using my that time to get back and forth to work. Happened to be a Saturday night, like I said. So when I got into my vehicle and I left my family's home, and he had told me the location, I just remember getting in my car and driving so fast, just trying to hurry up and get to where it was that my brother had gone into an accident at. And I remember the only thing going through my mind at that time, Hunter, was he's going to be okay. I'm going to see him there. There's going to be a crowd of people. Car got into an accident, whatever, but he's going to be okay. Like, I'm just looking for this really, really tall, slender, light-complected individual who I called my little brother. I'm just looking for him all over. Now, this is a highway I'm headed to. This is interstate that was located close to my parents' home, which is 2 long stretches either way of just about 10, 15 miles with no lights. There's a little bit of traffic. It's located outside the city limits with the state penitentiaries. So it's just a long stretch of just kind of nothing, just nothing. So now here I am, Hunter, looking for this gentleman closer and closer. So I get up and I begin to see the police lights from the distance. I began to see the lights from a distance. And I began to see a lot of cars pulled over as traffic was obviously being altered so, people can go around. And I closer and closer. And the only line now, in between my parents' home and the car, the scene where my brother got into a car accident, it's probably about 9 to 10 miles. So here I have about 10, 15-minute period. That's the only thing going on. So as I say, I'm pulling up and I'm not seeing him. I'm seeing a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of yellow tape, but I'm not seeing my little brother. That's the only person I'm looking for. And once again, this is 11:25, 11:27 to be precise, that evening. I get out of the car and I'm not seeing him. I run up to this, obviously, this accident, and I noticed my mom's car, which I did not pulled up. It was backed into an embankment. It was a truck, a white truck. The whole front wheel was. As I got closer, I could not see my mom's vehicle, and then I noticed it was back down into a ravine. And noticed the front of it. Also the driver's door was open. So as I run into it, only thing I'm looking for is my little brother. Where's he? A few police tried grabbing me or restraining me, and I kind of break away from them. So I go into that survival mode. I go into just where's this person? Where's this person? As I run up to the car, there's a gentleman who's standing in the doorway of the car, which the car door is open. And as I get closer and closer, the only thing I'm once again looking for is my little brother. I get closer, I ask this gentleman, where's my little brother? Where's Richard? Where's Richard? And I will always remember these words. They'll always just kind of stand out. And he said to me, DOA. Obviously, we all know what that means. Now, I don't believe this was a firefighter at that time. A firefighter who I guess it was passing by helping out with just, on the scene down. I don't believe that gentleman at this time knew that I was a family member, that I was that brother. I believe he thought I was just, I don't, maybe part of their department. I don't know. So when he said that, Hunter, I remember going into, I knew it was true. Body kind of, laying in the driver's seat thing with a seatbelt on. Once again, 11:32 p.m. And I turned around and I just had a moment where I just lost it. Literally, it's like a scene of The Boys in the Hood, where like you have the parents screaming hysterically, and here I am yelling and screaming. I run to this individual's car. I start breaking his windows out with my fist, punching him. Eventually, that whole thing kind of happens. My little brother at the age. That, Hunter, that moment in my life, and then you take back to where I remember my being, passing away at an early age as well. You combine both of those two, here I'm at the age of 24, kind of what that grieving feeling felt like until I was at age 8 or 9 with my stepfather, and really didn't even know how much I felt, how deep it was. I just remember just it being a painful feeling. Fast forward, here I go, youngest brother, in such a, unexpected turn of events. No one could have. Here he is. He worked that day. He was coming home from work. Was tired. Fell asleep at the wheel. Eventually, that's what took place. He fell asleep at the wheel. He swerved up to the lane. The car becoming slammed him. And when I think about it, the chances, because it's a very desolate road with hardly any vehicles that travel on it, especially late at night. The chances of him swerving off to the lane and the vehicle coming are very, very slim. But it took place. It happened to take place. The gentleman driving the car was not his fault. It was actually my brother's fault. He's the one that actually, he walked away okay. My brother, the wild thing about that was that the impact happened so quick and it snapped his neck, upon, the actual crash itself taking place, that he looked very peaceful. He looked very like when we had services, there was no scratches, there was no like signs of struggle. He just looked very peaceful, which that was good for. Look, like he was just sleeping. But here we go, Hunter, again, state working for the government. This takes place. It hits me. I could have never. Like I said, that's the night that's the night I can actually pinpoint that my life will go a different direction. Here I go, with the age of 24. I quit my job at the state, 25. I had some retirement put away. I quit my job. I stay home. Me and my girlfriend at that time, I just bought a house. I'm staying home, Hunter. I'm not doing it. I'm just kind of staring. I know what we all refer to the term shell shock. We're all very familiar with that term, shell shock. A lot of soldiers, go through it.
Sure.
That's what I actually was feeling that time, Hunter. I remember just sitting in my living room, just staring at the door, just waiting to see my brother walk to the door. That big old smile. So I sat around for about a year waiting for that, and it didn't take place.
A year, wow.
About a year, yeah. I remember my girlfriend at that time, her working, and just kind of coming home, and I'd just be sitting on that chair, just staring at that door, just hoping for this. I was hoping that what I was going through was a bad dream, and we've all lost people close to us, and we all kind of felt like this is a nightmare I'm going to wake up from. At some point, I'm going to wake up from this. So I believe that was the current state that I had been in. Now, fast forward to 25, I'm still kind of running on E. I'm just kind of there, just I had some money in retirement, so I'm kind of living off that. I'm staying afloat, if you could call it. Then, I honestly, I cannot tell you. I really cannot say for exact sure that alcohol was introduced into the picture. I said, here I am, 25 years old. You could probably count the times I've been drunk on one hand, maybe. I done any drugs, 2 hits of weed in high school, maybe laughed for lunch, but it was not anything. I could pass a drug test at any point in time. Alcohol and substances did not appeal to me. So here we go, 25 years old. I start to kind of come back a little bit to reality. I start to come back and be like, okay, so this is who I am. I had a job, I had a vehicle, I had a girlfriend, I had a family. I'm starting to come back to be able to, okay, this is kind of what I'm, you know what I mean, like who I was. And I don't know when alcohol was introduced to the picture. I know it was introduced at that time, at some point on that time. Like I said, I remember more probably me looking at it when I really look back on it, Hunter, it was probably my stepfather. Like I said, I remember alcohol being in the home. I remember him having some challenges with alcohol. So I looked at it like it was okay. Here you go. Both of my stepfathers in my life, who either of them could have really been my father if I saw it for all I knew, because they were both good people.
Sure.
But alcohol was prevalent in both of their lives, which it was in the home. So at the age of 20, I was given permission to use alcohol as a crutch, if you will, as a coping mechanism.
Right.
Here I go, Hunter, 25 years old. I begin to drink. Fast forward, 26 years old. I'm drinking alcoholically. I am alcoholic at the age of 26. That quick. That's all it took for me. I cannot tell you. I've heard some people say that it's hereditary. People say it's learned behavior. I cannot tell you. I know for me, it didn't take very long, a year, and here I am drinking as often as I could get my hands on it. Fast forward to the age of 27. Cocaine's introduced to the picture.
Stop for a minute. Where's your girlfriend?
At this point in time, Hunter, she finally left. At this point in time, Hunter, she had stuck around as long. And we were together since about the age of 19. So we had a really, really long-term relationship. We were engaged. At some point, Hunter, I remember her saying, Mark, I can't do this anymore. I know you lost your brother. I know it's painful. I knew your brother. I liked him. But I love you, Mark, but I will not watch you self-destruct anymore. I will not. So she, at some point, Hunter, at the age of 25, finally said, Mark, I've done all I can do. I love you. You're a good guy. I wish you the best of my life. So she's out of the picture. And I believe that point to Hunter, I pushed everybody away. I believe, Hunter, anyone who attempted to get close to me, I pushed away. Like, when I look back on it, I don't blame anyone for leaving. Like, I did everything a person can do to say, stay the from me. I'm so broken that right now. So she eventually, had to do her thing. Her life had to go on. So here I go at the age 27, 28. Cocaine's introduced to the picture. I can recall that moment to a T, being one night hanging out with some lady friends at a hotel, and cocaine had been around. I'd seen it many times, but I had not had no interest in it whatsoever. Fast forward this one night, for whatever reason, it looked like a good idea. I decided to snort a few lines of cocaine, which eventually, fast forward a few years later, I'm doing more than snorting a few lines of cocaine. I am doing whatever I have to do to fuel my alcohol and substance abuse addictions, because I have both those at this time. Age of 29, Hunter, alcohol and cocaine as much as I could possibly get my hands on.
And what was that doing as you look back on it? What was that doing for you at that time? What was it doing? What I mean, yeah, you were getting high. I get you, euphoria, what? But what was it? What was it doing for you?
What it was doing for me, Hunter, it was filling a void. It was filling a hole inside of me. Obviously, I didn't know I had or chose to address. It was filling this huge hole. Here's this person who's just screaming, I need help. I need some sort of way how to process and get through burying a family member.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
life in general.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed me to breathe, Hunter. I mean, my substance and alcohol abuse, it allowed me to breathe. It allowed me to say, I can deal with this.
Right.
And then eventually, I did it. I snorted so much cocaine. I'm surprised I can even breathe out my nostrils these days. Drank so much alcohol. I consumed so much alcohol and substances. And here I am. I'm doing anything and everything I can to fuel my alcohol and substance abuse addiction. Anything I can. I'm no longer able to sustain a normal job. Age 29, 30 years old. I'm no longer, I'm not reliable anymore, Hunter. I'm no longer reliable. You can no longer call me and say, hey, can you show up for a job? I'm no longer that person. So all opportunities that have been presented to me, the individuals who had reached out to me, these positions that I had received for whatever reasons were no longer there. I had burned every bridge I could possibly imagine. So here I decided at that time, once again, it seemed like a darn good idea to go to work for some, illegal. So at that time, which we're all very familiar with the term cartels, I knew me using cocaine as prevalently as I did. I knew some people in that sort of business. Them knowing me offered me a position. I would meet some people there in Mexico, and I would drive some vehicles around the country and deliver some goods in which I would get paid for my time. And that's what I did at that moment in time. It sounds was. I mean, when I look back on it, I don't. If I hadn't gone through that, there's no way that I would be here having this conversation. So there were times when I was very, because like, darn, I was kind of a dark spot of my life. It wasn't. It, but at some point, Hunter, we're all very familiar with alcohol and substances keep us alive. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. I would have put a gun to my head a long time ago and pulled the trigger. If it kept me, let me stay alive. That next hit's going to be the one that takes me. That next hit's going to be the one that I'm really going to be relieved of this pain. That next hit, me deciding to do what I did, took me to many, many, many wild places. And I'll probably never really go into every little detail, but there were a lot of situations, Hunter, that most people look at and say, fuck that, dude. That's just a little bit too much. I'm okay to do this, but that's a little bit too much. You put a lot of people and you put a lot of different personalities in a room combined with drugs that, of course, you can sell for a lot of money. guns, which obviously come with the lifestyle. I got to watch my back because you're out to get me. And money. You put all these different recipes in a pot, as dangerous as it gets. You hear a lot about, like these days, culturally, you hear a lot about the gangster life. People talk about the mafia gangster life. And I'm a firm believer. I've been there. I've been there in a whole different element to where when you're dealing with large amounts of money, people's attitudes will change. When you walk into the room and there's $300,000-$400,000 on the bed, so you'll get a whole lot more different. So here I am doing this, Hunter. I'm doing this for a few years, which blows my mind. The fact something I could do at that time. I'm driving vehicles all around the country, meeting people from every major city you could think of. And I already kind of had my regular people that I would meet and delivering 30, 40 kilos a time of cocaine. So I'm also getting paid for my services now. This money that I'm making in these different cities that I'm in, I'm renting hotel rooms. I already know the drill. I already know the parts of town to go look for drugs in these different places. That's what I'm doing. I'm ending up in hotel rooms. Pretty twacked out of my mind. Pretty very, 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 very insane behavior. Looking back on it, Hunter, the most insane behavior. I'm as paranoid as it gets. I go and I rent these rooms for a week at a time. Now I have in my pocket a few $1,000s at a time. This isn't a lot, but it's enough to keep me from feeling life.
I have a question here for you. So you're engaged with the cartels and moving drugs. At the same time, when you're in between jobs or on the road, whatever, didn't handle your business, you are doing drugs and involved in my question goes to, were you ever concerned you might slip up while you're on drugs or you're drunk and mess up these people's money or do something, in other words, because you have a lot of responsibility, even though you're dealing with, it's still, in terms of quote unquote illegal, but you still have responsibility to be certain places and do handle certain things. And getting high and all this, you never consider like, man, I got to keep it together because I got to be here, to do that was never an issue for you. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just.
Good question.
I couldn't do it. I'm like, I'd be too fucking scared. I'm like, I get drunk and not show up, and they're gonna whack me. The fear that alone would have kept my ass straight. But anyway, that's just me. You're better brother than me. I'm keeping it real.
Absolutely. Yes.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. I digress.
So that actually, yes, and that's a great question because there were several moments in which I remember that there were times and dates I had to be somewhere, and I remember being behind schedule. This is the funny thing, Hunter. So when I just began working for these gentlemen, they pretty quickly, what they did to me was first I got in a truck. This very, very nice vehicle. Now, keep in mind, I'm about as dark as it gets, so I blend right in with kind of our Mexican American friends.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not very familiar in Spanish language, but I know to get by. Like I said, I've been in this country, so I told it's America, but I kind of accepted it in that community as well. So as I began to work for these gentlemen, they take me one night, which I didn't know we were going. They gave me the vehicle, kind of like a scene out of a movie. We drive to this hotel room. We drive to this kind of older hotel, kind of beat up, kind of, real ransacked. And they don't tell me where we're going. We're just talking. In fact, I had no idea. We kind of left the bar that night as we're drinking. And we go to this hotel, which eventually I thought we were going to a hotel, hang out with some lady friends. I just knew we were going somewhere I had not been yet. So and they open up a door to this room. Now, this hotel was kind of those old hotels where they're all kind of those old, kind of like those old, and door to each one, like they all connect. It's really like a Motel 6. It's kind of old, kind of like Wild West hotels. we pull up to it. You park right in front of the room, and we get down, and they kind of joke around. We're all laughing, and then room, and I walk in, and they turn the lights on, there's two different beds. There's two different beds there, and there's a guy cuffed to each bed. There's two guys, and each to the headboard on each bed like this. Both of these guys, Hunter, were yeah, they were in pretty bad shape. They had I think they were alive. I can't say for sure. They were beaten pretty bad. They were pretty mashed up in their bodies, and they were I can't say for sure, but they were cuffed to a headboard each one. And when I walked in, I stopped, the light turned on, and basically they said to me, Mark, if you ever thinking about taking off with our money or taking off with our love, what's going to happen to you? Kind of set that tone from the start.
Wow.
So, and I remember seeing that, Hunter. I remember seeing that whole visual in my head. I remember seeing those gentlemen, and me still having, like, speak to reality somewhat, still had my heart went out to those individuals, but it did trigger something in me. So back to your, did it ever cross my mind? Yeah, it did. But my alcohol and substance abuse overpowered everything.
Wow.
It overpowered everything.
Man. Wow. Okay.
So here I
Straight talk.
am for these guys. Now I worked for them for 3 years, and I think what happened, Hunter, was I was very sloppy. I did not hold it. I did like any asked to do. Beginning, I'm cash register honesty. I'm not, but then after some time, we're like, you know what? They're gonna miss this. Or so in the beginning, I'm punctual. I'm doing what I got to do. I'm a times. Fast forward a few years, I'm sloppy. I think the only reason they kept me on, Hunter, was because I had been questioned by equations. The vehicles that I was driving had been pulled over. They'd been searched. I'd been questioned. And at no point in time did I say anything. So I think that's what it looked like. Mark's kind of already been. He may be late. He may not be the on time sort of guy. At the end of the day, he's delivering our packages, because here I am delivering. And these people that I'm delivering to are businessmen. I'm not delivering to signing the ball, selling the corner, selling the ball. I'm delivering to high functioning, obviously a lot of money making businesses. People own very successful businesses and live in beautiful homes. I'm delivering to people that this is laundering, whatever it is they're doing, but I'm not delivering to your average street hustle on the corner selling 2 grams of crack cocaine.
Right.
So at that point in time, Hunter, like I said, I'd already kind of been put through the ringer. At any point in time, they could have disposed of me, Hunter. At any point, I could not tell you why they did. Honestly, I have no idea.
Wow.
That happens. I'm doing that for several years. I'm making pretty good money. I'm making actually very good money. I'm most of these trips, and I'm kind of disclosing this information, but it really doesn't matter to me. It's been long enough to where this is way behind me, plus rigorous honesty. I'm probably making on each one of these trips that I'm driving cross country to Kansas City, Chicago, to Tennessee, to Oklahoma City, to Denver. On the trips back east, I'm probably making 15, 20 grand a trip. It's taking me a week to make the trip. It's taking me a week to get to Chicago. It's taking me 10 days to get Tennessee and back. Kansas City, about 4 days and back, 5 days. I'm making for my services. I'm standing behind the wheel. So money put away. Once again, how I didn't so much cocaine, consume so much alcohol, I could not tell how my body was able to sustain any of that. Here I am, addictions on my hand. I'm going at a hard 4 or 5 years. At that point, I'd already been drinking before that, but I'm at this point because now I have more money to fuel my addiction and substance abuse. The age of 33, Hunter, is when this lifestyle all around finally came to a head. And like I said, all of those voices before, all of those people, whether it be in passing or at your local church or local business or at your local people who had kind of said to me, hey, Mark, slow it down. Slow it down just a little. Smell those roses. Smell good. Just take a moment to breathe.
So in this, given that, do these people know what you're engaged in? They know the lifestyle.
Yes.
Okay.
They're under. I don't. When I look at myself, when I'm able to have kind of those moments, I don't believe I was ever kind of quiet about anything. So most people who know me, Hunter, obviously know that I'm engaged. Now, at that point in time, here I am, 31, 32 years old. I have a home. I'm paying on. It's just basically a place I can get high. It's basically a place I can just get high and have my company over and get high, whatever substance they have along with me. This comes to a head eventually. Feds end up intervening. There's large amounts, large quantities of substances being involved. So feds intervene. They open up a case on myself. They open up a case on other individuals I work with. So they have a 1.5-year investigation open us. It eventually doesn't stick. They had some pretty compelling evidence too, Hunter. Like on those checkpoints, I remember those checkpoints were the difficult part of the job. Of those checkpoints were absolutely brutal. Like just the stop and frisk whole thing, and that was. So I think maybe that's why they probably a lot of these. I think look back on it kept me on because I could get through checkpoints. Plus, I'd already been detained in them. I was able to keep my cool and able to get these loads through. So I think a part of it was like, well, he knows the drill. A lot of people go through a checkpoint and freak out, and it's a hard to very. I remember pulling up. I remember I would take the checkpoint by White Sands Missile Range, and I remember immediately there's one checkpoint right there located a mile within, right between it. I remember going to that checkpoint and immediately just getting rest area, getting out of the car, running to the bathroom, just throwing up in the toilet, just profusely because I was so sick from just having to go through a situation that I knew that my life was on. I knew that my entire future relied on this, and having to keep my cool. And that those are pretty. They look for in your head, and you track your story, and you have to have your stuff narrowed down. So, and you have a few miles before you get to the actual checkpoint. You just don't pull up to one. There are a few miles where you have to slow down and drive 5 miles an hour for about 2-3 miles. And I believe this is me personally, Hunter. I believe that the whole process is for that. Maybe think about what it is you're actually embarking on. Just even when there's no traffic, you still have to drive 5 miles an hour for 2 miles just before you approach the actual checkpoint. And there's already helicopters that see you. They already have you on visual. So my stomach would get so tight and so tense, and I would constantly question, Mark, are you doing the right thing? You're jeopardizing the rest of your freedom to get this low to these checkpoints. Is it really worth it? At that time, I had to keep my cool. Once again, with the grace of God, able to do that. But I remember immediately the first chance I got pulling. There's outhouses outside of checkpoints for customers or people coming through. I remember my upset stomach and running to those journals and running to those outhouses. Art does look very good, like you're throwing up here in the front of a checkpoint outhouse. That's kind of so I remember being able to hold together for a little mile till I could get to that one rest area and pull it. I remember that just being very upsetting. So eventually, like I said, catching one of the people that I open investigation saw. Some time passes, they eventually end up and they had quite a bit of evidence. By the grace of God, we're all familiar with the term jail institutions are dead. So fast forward on this 90%.
Go ahead.
And I'm drinking that day. Now I've used all my resources again. All the resources that this job that me, being a basically mule for a driver for, making pretty good money. Hunter, I couldn't even tell you. Sir. I went in $200,000, 150 to be the market between 100 and 100. I made for those 3 individuals in just alcohol and drugs. I had a home, but clothes, my back, cars, but that's one trip. That's one trip I'm able to pay for any of those things. Well, for the vehicles, because one trip twice a month, and I already have that covered. So most of it went to fuel my alcohol and substance abuse. Partners that nothing solid, nothing concrete, because like anything, dysfunction attracts dysfunction. So here I am, the women in my life around, and I'm one of the women sitting in my life who can get high and drink like I do. So that's what they're doing. It comes to a halt. They're kind of like, hey, you got anything for me? I look at them, you got anything for me? So I gotta go, bye. So there's really no real meaningful relationships in my life. And this is stemming all the way back to when I lost my youngest brother once again. At that point, when I began to drink, here I am, fast forward 10 years later. I'm drinking, I'm using cocaine. I ended up taking the police, and the police attempted to pull me over, and they're taking 5 days. I end up actually getting away from them. It took me about a very long high-speed chase, probably all the way out of town where I live, all the way to a whole different location outside the city limits. there were individuals that night, which once again, there were individuals that night who were doing road work that I recall jumping out of the way of my car. It wasn't like I swerved to miss them. They actually jumped out of the way of my car. I remember seeing a bunch of big tractors and a bunch of operators just jumping out of the way of my cars. I'm swerving in and out while these sheriffs are chasing me. At the time, I had no idea how many cops were behind me. Turned out there was 5. I ended up losing them. I ended up getting far enough away from them. I ended up taking all these back roads that I kind of getting away from them, high-centering my car on some railroad tracks. Got out of my vehicle, ran. Eventually, I remember the police surrounding my vehicle, but I'm already, at this point in time, I'm already up, hiding in this mountain, way up in the brush, very dark, desolate, like in the forest area. I'm already gone. They don't even have me. So in my mind, I'm just looking at the sheriffs with their guns drawn, yelling at the car. They thought someone was in the car. They had the car out. This mountain in this tree. At that point, Hunter, at that specific point, is you can say I had an epiphany, referring back to when all these talks had been had with me. At that point, Hunter, everything just came. Like I remember seeing them, and everything got real slow. I remember seeing them, these sheriffs with their shotguns drawn all around my vehicle, yelling my name out if I'm not there. I remember watching it from a distance, and I remember, look, here I am. Good, decent person through high school. Good, decent person, young adulthood. Now, for whatever reason you call it, here I start to use. Here I began to lose relationships. Here I began to lose jobs. Now it's wild because I don't know what you can call us. I don't call it universe consciousness or what. But all of those things at that time, Hunter, kind of all came into play. And then what took place was I had thought to myself, what did I do today? Because it's about 11 o'clock at night this took place. How did my day go? And I put all my, how did I end up here me hiding in a mountain, hiding up in this tree in a mountain with my car down there with sheriffs surrounding it, almost hitting these poor, city workers. How did I end up, how the hell am I hiding in a tree? And as I'm running up this hill, I run into a barbed wire fence which splits my lip open as well. So here I am bleeding from my face. Sheriffs have my car surrounded. All of these things, Hunter, all compacted. I remember saying to myself, how in the fuck, Mark, did you end up, how did you end up here at this moment in time? And at that point in time, Hunters, I remember kind of climbing down out of that tree, barbed wire fence, walking down and saying, I'm right here, I'm right here, I'm right here. And they turned the car, freeze, get down. They arrested me. I was on felony probation, and that's when I was a car. Now, once again, I've been incarcerated several times. I was no, stranger to jail. I knew the routine. They arrested me, but at that point in time, Hunter, I go in front of the judge for a lot of serious charges again, many serious charges. In all fairness and honesty, the judge had every right to sentence me to the penitentiary. They had everything in front of them. They had a list of things that I had been in front of those district court judges for. They had every reason to sentence me to penitentiary time. I was in jail about a week when when my court date was coming up. I had no bond, of course. I'm a threat to society and so forth and so on. I remember that whole time just sitting in a jail cell, and it'd been there before, but for this time it was a little bit different. I remember sitting there, Hunter, and saying to myself, I need help. I need freaking help. I can no longer do this. I can no longer anymore. I'm going in front of this judge.
I want to stop you there.
Sure.
I want to stop you there. Man, thank you. We're going to pick this up. I want to stop you there at the realization you need help. And just want to thank you for opening up and man, sharing powerfully. Thank you. This is Mark and Hunter and Disrect America and we'll have to have Mark back and continue with your story. And thank you for sharing. Hunter, Rector America Badass Talk with Mark, and thank the audience for tuning in this week. And we'll pick back up with Mark another occasion. Thank you, Mark, and you be well, man. Take care of yourself, all right?
Thank you.
All right.